So let's move on to chapter 2, marriage.
Yes.
Now, there have been thousands of books written on marriage. Obviously, marriage offers a tremendous opportunity for us to reflect Christ. Give us a hint about what's in chapter 2.
So the most important relationship in someone's life is his or her relationship with God. Arguably the second most important, if they are married, is their relationship with their spouse. So that's why marriage is our second stop. And marriage is the foundation of family, and family is the foundation of society. And when you really think about it deeply, as I have tried to do, what you'll find that many of the woes in our society can be traced back to sexual immorality of one kind or another. And this chapter deals with the biblical sexual ethic and the various departures from it that we have become so accustomed to these days. But there's another element to it, which is that the theme that binds all of these chapters on relationships together is love. And the Apostle John tells us that God is love and that love is from God. So the idea is that having experienced the love of God by deepening your relationship with God through the spiritual disciplines, you're then ready to show the love that is from God to the people around you. And what's so cool about that is that God has taught us how to love those around us with his love. And that is nowhere better represented than in marriage, because Paul tells us that the man is the head of the wife as Christ is the head of the church, that the man is to love his wife as Christ loves the church and gave himself up for her. That beautiful passage in Ephesians 5. So we see there that God is teaching us through Christ, teaching us men how to love their wives. Likewise, God is teaching women how to love their husbands by drawing an analogy between how the church loves Christ. So even though there are plenty of scriptures on marriage in the Bible, by drawing that analogy, there's so much more information about marriage, because you can begin to see how marriage is implicitly being spoken of as this relationship between Christ and the church is expanded in Scripture.
Yeah, I would say that's the thing. One of the things that I took away from this chapter and the next chapter is the representation of how, or the explanation, the picture you drew of how Christ, his relationship to the church is a mirror, or I guess I should say the other way around. A husband's relationship to his wife is a mirror of the relationship of Christ to the church. And that does definitely inform the relationship more. And I think people will glean from that some things that are helpful. There are some sticky subjects in this chapter. We don't want to get into them now. We could spend a whole podcast discussing those. Things like, should you be remarried after a divorce? Again, this is a topic you don't hear talked about in the church anymore, but is explicitly in the scriptures. It is called out pretty plainly. Doesn't make it any less of a sticky issue, but that's just something that is dealt with to help people understand a little bit more about where the scriptures are coming from.
Sure. Yeah, I think that no sticky subject in the book probably absorbed more of our time as a team than divorce and remarriage. So if what you read doesn't completely answer the question for you, I'm sorry, but know that every word has been very carefully considered.
Obviously, that's a sticky issue that we deal with. There's some other things in there that I think people will gain some things from as well that are not talked about too much. Anything else you want to say on chapter 2 before we move to chapter 3?
If I could just make one more comment on the metaphor of marriage as Christ and the church, one thing that's so cool about that is we see that if we can live out our marriages according to God's design, what the onlooking world sees is a drama of Christ and the church. It's a way of communicating the gospel without even mentioning the name of Christ, which, as we'll discuss later, of course, mentioning the name of Christ and exalting the name of Christ is something that we want to do, and explicitly. But you can do it, you can weave it throughout your entire life, especially in relationships. And marriage is just such a powerful way to do that.